Hello and welcome to the Athletics Office with the next episode in our series, What Coaches Wish They Could Tell Parents. Today, we want to ask the question, parents and players, have you ever wondered how coaches make decisions on who plays, on who starts, on how what all goes into that decision-making process? And then coaches, what do you wish parents understood about those decisions, everything that you take into consideration and what leads you to that decision? So we're here with Coach RC. I'm your co-host, Brandon Weaver, and so we want to dive in today. Thank you for joining us. And actually, before we get to who plays, who starts, let's talk about the tryout process. At our school, there are 3 sports right now that have a tryout process, those being cheer, volleyball, and basketball. But we've been at larger schools where we've had to go through that process in some other sports, and so we want to give some different thoughts on what goes into a tryout process. So currently we have actually soon we're going to be having middle school basketball tryouts at OCS. At one point in my life, I was a freshman coach at Memorial, a 6A school here in town. We had 60-plus kids try out for 15 spots. And let me just go ahead and say on the front end, from a program standpoint, it's a great position to be in because a ton of kids are trying to play your sport. I've seen it on the other end where you barely have enough kids to play, and it's tough. So it's a great position to be in. That being said, it's the worst part of the job for me as a coach because, when I was coming up playing, there's probably some places I could have been at that I didn't make the team. And so you're making that decision on a kid not being able to participate in sports, and that's a tough place to be. And so here are some of the things that we look at. So we're trying to find a baseline of skills. And I can speak to basketball. You're going to put them in some drills, some ball handling drills, some shooting drills, some passing drills, just to see, what their skill level is like. But we even move beyond that where we do more competition drills. We're going to do some 1-on-1, some 2-on-2, some 3-on-3 to actually see them in competition. Because before I used to do that, a kid could leave the tryout and think, man, I did great. I didn't dribble off my foot one time, or I made all my layups. Well, without a defense, it's hard to tell those things. And so we make it as competitive as we can. But you're trying to see a baseline of skills. The other thing that's really hard to account for is the growth and development of that player. We're doing it at the middle school level. So how do you know which kid has hit that growth spurt quicker? Who's going to, get taller, get stronger at a later time? You don't want to, have them not make the team. You want to make sure that you give them an opportunity. And then also you have no idea what sports they're going to wind up picking.
Right.
So in middle school, they kind of try everything. And then when they get to high school, they can continue to play multiple sports, or they can kind of focus in, and it's really up to them. But that's another kind of question that's in the back of our heads. Ability to be coached. Can a kid take instruction and put it into action quickly the first time? Or do you have to tell them 10 times?
Right.
And so, you're trying to look for that as much as possible. Just communication. Do they give you eye contact? Do they, do they communicate? Do they ask questions? I think that's something that can put a player ahead. Are they a great teammate? When another teammate is shooting a layup, are they talking to them and encouraging them and those type of things? And then for those who have multiple teams, which team do they wind up being on? And how long is your tryout process? Ours is only a couple of days.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get a lot of information on a lot of kids in a short amount of time, put them, possibly on different teams, or who makes it, who doesn't. It's a very stressful process for coaches and players. And I understand, on the players' side, what do the next few months of your life look like? Are you going to get to hang out in there with your buddies and all that goes into it? And so that's just on the tryouts. Now, not every school has a tryout. Not every team has a tryout. But for those who have, the reason why you're having a tryout is most likely because constraints in facilities.
Right.
We have 29 in 8th grade and 21 in 7th grade. So if we keep everybody, that's 50 kids in a gym. It basically becomes a camp unless you do something else with it. You just, you got all these kids all over the gym. How do you structure that to be able to get done what you need to get done? So those are just some thoughts on tryouts. Go ahead. What do you got?
With tryouts, do they only get to try out that 1 year? Say it's a 7th grader and he doesn't make the team as a 7th grader. Can he come back in 8th grade?
Yeah. That's part of our conversation kind of at the end is if they don't make it, we encourage them to come out the next year.
Yeah.
Because again, some kids may move, some kids may choose a different sport. So, they hit their growth spurt. And so it looks completely different for them. And we have had kids, we've had kids that were not very good in middle school and they stuck it out. And in high school, they became really good basketball players because they had the love for the game that really pushes them forward. So, but that's a good point. We want to encourage that. And so it's not just a one-time thing. And I guess another sport that we have like that is golf.
Oh, yeah.
Golf is very popular at
bags.
OCS. Yeah. And there's limited opportunities there.
Yeah.
So let's move into playing time. So kind of walk us through, as a baseball coach, what are some of the things that you take into consideration when you're thinking about playing time and rotations and making those decisions?
All right. So first, what I think about the most when I'm thinking about playing time from the baseball perspective is positioning, like who plays where, right? So if my best pitcher is my shortstop, like I'm having to think about, okay, where am I going to strategically place him in our pitching rotation to give us the best chance to succeed? Is that on a Monday? Is that on a Tuesday? Because on Mondays and Tuesdays are district games, so probably be on a Tuesday so I can have him play shortstop on Monday and give my defense the best chance to be really good on Monday. Then we look at skills. How good are you? Can you handle the bat? Can you bunt? Can you run? Can you catch? That's a huge part of the game of baseball is like catching the ball. So skill level, looking at those different types of things, fit within the team, like where do they fit within our lineup? Can this kid turn a fastball around? Can he turn it back in the outfield? Is he more of a runner? Like, does he need to handle the bat? Is he going to be at the top of our lineup? Things like that.
And where do you get that information from when you're talking about the skill level and fit with the team? Where are you seeing that in order to make that decision?
Every day in practice.
Yep.
Every day in practice. So we're sitting there, we're putting them in different types of situations in practice, whether that's BP sessions or scrimmages, 2-pitch scrimmages, machine pitch scrimmages, different types of practice kind of routines to put them in those positions to see where they're going to fit at the best.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a disconnect between coaches, players, and parents, because as a parent, take basketball. I've seen my kid shoot in the driveway.
Yeah.
I've seen my kid play in weekend tournaments with his buddies where there's, they've got 5 to 10 guys. They put together a team and they're playing against another kind of travel ball team in that scenario. And I've seen him. I've seen him make shots in that environment. I've seen him play defense in that environment and all those things. So as a parent, that's what's in my mind.
Right.
But as a coach, I'm not taking those things into consideration because I'm not seeing him in those weekend tournaments. Yeah. What I'm basing my decisions on are practices. How is he competing against the guys that are in our practices?
Right.
Again, they have max 10 guys on a travel ball team for basketball. We have 29 in his grade at OCS. They play a particular offense or defense in travel ball and are coached in a certain way. Usually travel ball teams only practice once or twice a week.
Yeah.
We're practicing 5 days a week. The offense defense may look a little bit different. So I think that's some of the disconnect that we have to keep perspective on is, yes, I've seen my kid in this scenario, but the coach is seeing him this environment every single day, and that's how they're making their decisions. So go ahead. What else do you look for?
So that leads us right into the ability to be coached. Like, how can they make adjustments? If you tell them, like, hey, we got to get our lead this way, or field the ground ball off your right eye, like, or your left eye, or whatever you're trying to tell them, are they able to make that change quickly? Split-second decisions in a baseball game are the matter of runs. I mean, in basketball, it's probably similar as well. Trust level, can I trust you to be on the field? Can I trust you to be on the mound in that time? And then I'm going to skip down to like who starts, right? Kind of rotations. It's a little different in baseball. Being at a smaller school, you got guys that pitch and play a position, and usually those are your better players. So when that happens, I have to know which guy is going where. Am I going to pull a guy off of the bench, or am I just going to rotate guys in positions that are already in the lineup? So there's a little strategy that goes into that. Also, just forward thinking of like, hey, we do have a game tomorrow, so like his pitch count's limited. Mm-hmm. So now when his pitch count's limited, I probably will bring somebody in off of the bench to throw. So that does open the door for that to happen. And just like with jumps, and then I'm going to throw it back to you about, you can talk about basketball a little bit, but
Yeah.
with jumps, like with baseball, kids take a jump from their sophomore summer to their junior school year. That's when you start to see a jump in physicality
Right.
and them being stronger and better movers and throwing the ball harder and the ball coming off their bat. That growth jump really tends to happen there. So what I do is I try to get as many young guys in as I can throughout the season, sprinkled in here and there, because eventually they're going to be the next guys up.
Yeah.
So I try to sprinkle those guys in when I can. Sometimes it's just clear cut. There's a freshman or a sophomore that's better than a junior or senior. So parents aren't always happy about that. But at the end of the day, it's about the success of the team and putting the team in the best position to win and be successful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when it comes to basketball, when you're talking about positions, kind of the thing that's on the rage is this positionless basketball, and that's true. I think most people still have kind of a post-like player in basketball and kind of perimeter players. So it's probably more two positions than it was five when we were growing up. But
it was like a stretch four.
There
maybe.
you go. Could you shoot?
Nah.
I don't know if that's a stretch. Then that's a layup for who we call it. So position wise, are you gonna start your five best players? What if two of your top five players are both posts? Are you going to build your offense around that and build your rotations around that? What if all five of your best players are guards? And now you've got any post guys coming off the bench, and then it changes game by game, right? So we may play a team that is guard oriented, so we'll play more guards, right? We may play a team that has a 6'8" guy. Well, we need some bigger guys that are in there, and so as a coach, you're thinking about, okay, their skill level, and I'll say, like at OCS, we're really blessed. I can't think of guys in our program that are not like good, solid basketball players. Now, obviously, some are better than others, but they're all good, solid basketball players. There's no drill killers, as what we would call them in the coaching world. We have some really good, solid basketball players, and so you're looking for other things on top of that. What's the chemistry like? And one thing that I'll throw out there that I don't think coaches talk about with parents a lot is, if I've identified, okay, this is my top guy or these are my top three guys, I'm also looking for who plays the best with them.
Right.
So I may have two players that they're good ball handlers, they're good shooters, they're good defenders, they're very similar. But if one plays with my better group of players, it's a easier chemistry and things like that.
Complementary basketball.
Yeah, then you're going to put them in that position to be able to play. Now, it's not like my best players are making the decision on who plays, but I'm definitely, if there's chemistry between them and somebody else, I'm taking that into consideration. And then we talked about the opponent's personnel. How do I look at who we're playing? And it may change game by game. There have been years where, okay, against a bigger team, we're playing these 7 or 8 guys. Against a team that's pressing, the top 5 or 6 may stay the same, but then the subs may be different because I need more ball handlers on the court. And so a lot of those things going into it and adjust. And then ability to be coached, again, it's something I think we're blessed with at OCS. Our guys are really coachable.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of knuckleheads that, push back and things like that. So that's good. Seniority, that's the thing we kind of want to talk about, because every coach has their own thought process on how to take that into consideration. For instance, you've got a junior and you've got a sophomore, and they're very similar. They're both, pretty good at whatever the skill levels are once you've evaluated and assessed that. Who do you lean towards? I've been with some coaches who they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the older guy. He's earned it. He's been in our program. He's done the things for longer than the sophomore has, so they're going to do that. Other coaches may say, I'm going to take the younger guy. They have more time to grow and develop from experience, so I'm going to take the younger guy. And to be honest, I don't know if I necessarily fall strongly in one camp or the other, because there's so many things to take into consideration. But there's definitely pros and cons to both of those. I've had some talented freshmen come through, but then the other thing about that is it depends on what the rest of the makeup of your team is.
Yeah.
This year we have 10 seniors on our basketball team. So to be a younger guy trying to break into that is going to be more difficult than if we had 3 seniors.
Right.
There's more opportunity there. There have been times in the past where I've started a freshman and he would have started no matter how many juniors or seniors we had. Then I've started some freshmen in my time. It's like, this is just what we need. We don't
Right.
have a lot of the older guys and the leadership and things like that. And so, that can be all over the board, and it can be very frustrating. Some of the chemistry issues that I've seen throughout my time as a coach and athletic director are when young guys play above older guys.
Right.
Causes a lot of issues, and to be honest with you, it causes fewer issues in the locker room.
Yeah.
Kids can usually overcome that type of adversity,
Yeah.
but it causes a lot of frustration with families and with parents and things like that. And so, anything in that you want to touch on?
Yeah. So, just an example from me, I had 2 players play the same position. One was a freshman, one was a senior. Early on in the season, I give the senior the chance, right?
Yeah.
Senior starts struggling a little bit, so I throw the freshman out there, and the freshman just takes off. Freshman ends up being a 4-year starter for us.
Yeah.
Takes the senior spot. Senior's not happy about it, but he's still a okay teammate at that point of the year. I mean, we go to the state tournament. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into that, but the big thing is like you said, in the locker room, like, those guys understand, and most of them can see the writing on the wall of, like, this dude can freaking go.
Yeah.
Like, he can hoop, or
Yeah.
he throws the crap out of it,
Yeah.
But you have those guys that can see the writing on the wall. They're good self-evaluators. So then the problem does lie with parents being open to that, like taking their blinders off. I do it with my 6-year-old right now. I'm
Right.
like, man, she's the greatest soccer player ever. She's really not that good, guys. She's really not. Like, she's got some work to do. But, like, I think all the time, I'm like, man, she's so good on the field. She's so good on the field.
Yeah.
Then I'm the parent that will go out to practice every now and again and be like, I'm going to go watch and see what she's doing. And I go out there and she's doing cartwheels.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there's a little bit of that goes into it, where parents have to be willing to take those blinders off, and just see from the outside looking in. I know some coaches are open to having parents at their practices. I'm one of those. Like, come see what we do, critique it up there, outside the fence. Don't come to me about that nonsense. But
Yeah.
come watch practice, see what your kid does. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe he'll work hard that day because you're there.
Yeah.
So one of those things, just
Well,
stuff like that.
And some things sometimes it's not a matter of you've got a player that is dramatically here
Yeah.
and a player that is just really awful. If
Mhm.
you're a player in a really good program, there's, great and there's really good,
Yeah.
right? And that may be the separator in that. And so let's pause there and just kind of talk to parents on how to help their athletes navigate a situation like that. If you're an older kid, you've been playing baseball, you've been playing basketball, you've been playing a sport all your life. Now a younger kid takes your position. First of all, it's okay to hear them out, to listen to them, to, affirm those feelings of, man, that stinks. Like, I get it. Right.
Yeah.
But then it's okay. How are we going to approach it? And I'm skipping down here a little bit, but coaches rarely, I'll say, I don't think you can say never, rarely take into consideration, well, I just like this kid more than this kid. Now, I think a coach would say, well, yeah, I like this kid because he's coachable. He does what I ask. He
Right.
does this at a high level. That's what we consider like. It's not, I mean, some of my most favorite players that I've coached have not really got a lot of time on the court.
Yeah.
So there's this separator there. I really enjoy them and everything, but then also, does that lead to playing time? So I think you can affirm your kid's feelings and just say, okay, so what do you think you should do about it? And maybe your kid says, well, I understand, think the coach likes me, or he's being unfair in this and that. And, depending on the age, I think it's, hey, you need to talk to your coach about this. Well, it'll most likely what they'll say is it'll be held against me.
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm not saying there's not coaches out there who do that. And maybe once in my career or a few times it's come off as I've done that. We're not trying to, just make life hard on that kid just for the sake of making life hard. I mean, we're just making these decisions, and these are the natural consequences of those decisions. But it doesn't do any good for the kid to hold that in or the kid just to come home and complain, because as a parent, I want to solve those problems.
Right.
I want to
Right.
solve them. I want to help them solve them. But more so what you should do in your mentoring of your kid is, hey, I think you should have a conversation as a coach with the coach. I think you should tell them, how you feel, because, and as a coach, I think it's incumbent upon us to give a path to that kid of what do we do need to see from them, right? Of, you talked about they kind of self-evaluate, but let's say they struggle with that. Hey, we're not going to necessarily, one of the rules in our program is we're not going to talk playing time, as far as, because anytime you talk playing time, you're comparing the kids.
Yeah.
But I can have a conversation with a player to say what you need to get better at.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe when you've started this senior, he's having trouble with fielding, with, pickoff plays, with, whatever those cases are. And then as a coach, we can just say, hey, I think it's incumbent upon us of why this decision has been made. Right. And that is not what we got growing up. Right. I mean, decisions were made and it was like, that was just a decision made. But I think that's the difference in coaching in today's world, is giving that information to a kid. Hey, here's what you struggle with. You show me that, you've improved in that, you're consistent in that, you may get that opportunity again. But again, some of it's about the opportunity. If that freshman gets in there and just takes off and does a good job.
Yeah.
But the other tough thing, and I've seen this kind of throughout my career, is, parents and the kid who is not playing is constantly looking for mistakes out of that kid who is playing. And look, they did this. See how they turned it over here. They missed that shot. They did this. Well, mistakes are part of the game. Okay. But at the end of the day, which one do I have a higher level of trust with? And at the end of the day, the coach is hired to make those decisions.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to open it up and have some democracy on these type of decisions, even within our coaching staffs, right? Even we may have assistant coaches who say, hey, man, I think this guy should be playing. And you take that into consideration. But at the end of the day, as the head coach, you're making that decision, for right or wrong. So I think, anyway, just to close that up, I think hear your kid out, care for them, love them well, ask them to go talk to the coach. And I think it's okay for the parent to be there if they need that support, and just understand as a parent. And I've had a couple of really good examples of that, where a parent reached out to me and said, hey, my son wants to come talk to you. I'm going to come just in support of him and just be there, just kind of help him find his voice, because it's hard to talk to an authority figure in that. And again, I think it's for us as coaches to show them how we come to that conclusion as far as their skill level or what we're looking for. And then also to not beat them down because of it. How dare you come and question my decision? I think if we take that tone with it and that attitude, it's only going to be hurtful to not just that kid, but our entire program. Because at the end of the day, we want great chemistry between our players out there. And when this works out the best, every player's rooting for everybody else.
Right.
They understand what they're in control of, but we're making the decision as a coach and going with it. And then the other thing, and I'll kind of throw this out, one of the things I love about the community that we have at OCS, and I'll talk to basketball specifically, when our guys come out of the locker room, all their families are waiting on them, and all the families, if parents of player A are more likely to say, hey, great job, player B. Man, I loved how you did this. I loved how you did that, to all these players that are coming out. When it's done not well, there's these pockets. There's these 3 or 4 parents that hang out over here, these 3 or 4 parents. And when their kid gets to them, it's, negative, frustrating. I can't believe this kid is playing. Can't believe this is going on, and all those things. That's so hurtful to a program, a coach, the chemistry that's going on. And so the more that all parents can kind of root for all those kids, I think that's the role of us as parents. When my kid comes off the soccer field, they play soccer right now, I need to, hey, great job, loved watching you play, but then also point out all of those other kids. And so anything else on that?
Yeah, and I think that's a big, like a bigger maybe point that we go into too a little bit later, is just how do we support them when they after that game? Like I have a 6-year-old. She plays soccer. She did not play very hard the other day, and I told her, I said, listen, I only expect you to do 2 things when you come out here. Have fun and play hard. I don't care how many goals you score. I don't care if you take the ball from anybody. Play hard, have fun. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if she does those 2 things, I'm like, let's go. You did great today. You might have kicked the ball out of bounds 18 times with no direction or path, but you did great. You ran hard. You were a good teammate. You had fun. I could tell those things. that's one thing that we kind of speak to in our baseball program of like, hey, your kid's going to get coached hard. He's going to go through enough hard things on this baseball field that when he gets off of it, it's best for you as a parent to just encourage him and support him and be there for him, not be like, bro, you looked at strike 3 again. You know, that
walk home.
You're riding the bus home. You know, so that right there is one of the big things that we talk to. And then again, from the coach's standpoint, like at the end of the day, we care about every player that we have on our team. Right. So when we do make personnel decisions and think about playing time and things like that, it's not about that kid in general, right? It's not about, oh, his personality is trash. No, it's not that. It's how are we benefiting the team? How is this helping the team? How do we make our team better? Right? Because let's be honest, what do parents want to see done? They want to see wins, right? And you care for their kid, right? So if you're caring for their kid as a coach on the coaching side, you're caring for their kid. I may have to make a change here and there where little Johnny's not playing today. We're playing little Patrick today. So that happens, right? But at the end of the day, we care about your kids.
Well, I think that's and it's so different between the teams that you coach. My first head coaching job, we won 5 games that year. A lot of it was my coaching. Don't get me wrong. Okay, a couple of years ago, we had an incredible team, and we won the state championship. There were guys on that team who never sniffed the court unless we were blowing somebody out that would have started on my 5-win team. So some of it is just, maybe you're blessed to be on a really good team and a really good program. I'll tell my guys all the time, sometimes if they're not getting to play very much or at all, I'm like, look, you might be able to be at another school with a different group that's fighting its own battles, and maybe you're playing more, but maybe you're not having that level of success. We're blessed. I'm blessed as a coach. You're all blessed here as players that we have this group that's having this much success. But I tell you, it's in some ways harder to coach a team that's having a lot of success than it is the team that's not having success. I'll say it's just different. You have different challenges and different battles that you're fighting. To get back to the playing time, so we talked about seniority. Obviously, in basketball, another thing is foul trouble. Some coaches have the philosophy that if you get 2 fouls in the first half, you're going to sit. Others don't. I kind of have, depending on the officiating, if it's really tight, you're going to make one decision. If they're calling it pretty loose or depending on how deep your team is, you may make different decisions. And look, trust me, every player who gets 2 fouls looks at me and says, "Coach, leave me in. I'm not going to get my third." Okay. And then usually shortly after, they'll get their third. But, that's a part of the thought process. Injuries, is a player injured? Which player is injured? How are we going to tighten up our rotation with that player out? Is it a big? Is it a guard? Who's ready to go? Eligibility. We talked about grades. So, obviously in our sports at the middle school and high school level, we're taking that into consideration. And it may be even just a guy's not doing what he's supposed to do in class. Right. And sometimes we choose to run that guy, or there's other discipline, or sometimes, hey, you're not going to start. You're not doing what you're supposed to do in the classroom. You're a student athlete, and we're going to do that. And again, different coaches have different philosophies on that, right? And then we talked about discipline. Again, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do in class, or you're causing headaches somewhere else, why am I going to reward you with that? Now, on the flip side, maybe I take care of that with running or something else, and I don't take that spot away. Again, I think that the tough part is when other players start to say, well, I see him doing this, but the coach is leaving him in there, and I don't think that's fair. Okay. And again, we're open to that conversation. We should be as coaches, but at the end of the day, the coach is making that decision. I think that's where we have to bring clarity is whose role is whose. What role does a coach have? What role does a player have? What role does a parent have? And let me just throw this out there, because in some of my tougher parent meetings, it's thrown out, well, what you say doesn't line up with what you're doing, right? And we need to, be able to unpack that and to see exactly what that is. But sometimes, there's always, gray areas, I think, for any really good leader. And, okay, how is this impacting something. One of the things that we try to balance at our particular school are mission trips.
Yeah.
Right? They go on mission trips. They may miss practices. They may miss games. Who's to say what's fair about how we handle that as coaches when it comes to playing time? And I've done it a lot of different ways. I've been here, 10 years is now my 11th. Done it a lot of different ways. I still don't know what the perfect way is. There's so many variables to take into consideration, and you don't want to punish one thing and reward something. I mean, whatever you do is seen as that reward and punishment, and you're trying to make the best of a situation that there's a lot of good in, but there's just some variables there that you can't control. And so, again, I think it's okay for parents to say, and let me just give that aside real quick. And again, we've hit on another episode, but if a parent wants to have a conversation with a coach about, and again, not playing time, I don't think it's good. We actually have this policy at our school, like no sport is going to talk playing time with parents. But I've been in meetings for an hour, 2 hours, where at the end of the day, if you're the parent and I'm the coach, you see your kid one way, I see him in the comparison of all these others and what I'm trying to do on the team. And at the end of the day, I'm going to make the decision.
Yeah.
And we don't have to see eye to eye on that, right? I mean, that's just the honest truth, right? But I think it's okay for a parent to come in and just say, help me to understand this, instead of, I can't believe you're making that decision. Like, if our middle school principal has a great saying of, come in with an attitude of inquiry rather than an attitude of attacking. Help me to understand this. When you do or say this, what are you wanting? Because a lot of times it's, oh, okay, I said this and this is what I meant, but this may have been how the kid took it. So we're getting sidetracked with some parent thing. We want to give some of those perspectives to parents. Okay, the other thing real quick I want to hit on is who starts, how you rotate them in and out, and then just subbing patterns. And I can talk about basketball specifically. If I have 3 big guys, but I don't start any of them, it's going to be almost impossible to get all 3 of them in a normal rotation. If I want to get all 3 of them in, I need to start at least one of them, and then maybe I can rotate the other 2 in. But by the time I take one of them off the court and he gets rested, he's ready to come back.
Right.
So some of that is in there. And then how deep can we go? I mean, heck, some coaches just play 6 or 7. Some coaches play 10. It's really hard to get past 10 in basketball. And so, and like I said, we have 10 seniors this year. We're still, we'll take the next month or 2 to figure out those rotations and still throughout the season. And we don't have our football players right now. We hope our football team goes really deep into the playoffs. And then once they're there, we're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so it's just because something's happening in December doesn't mean that's what's happening in February and then ultimately March. And so there's a lot of variables to be able to take in there. Each coach has their philosophy about it. And, they're getting the feedback from their staff. And at the end of the day, making the best decision that they can for the team. So anything to add on the playing time?
Like, it's going to look different in football per se too.
Yeah.
Like, we have almost 80 kids on
Yeah,
our football
a lot
team.
of them
So
out there,
like,
yeah.
we don't have to play guys both ways. Some guys do play both ways. Like, you have a basketball player that plays both ways.
Yeah.
So like, I think when it comes down to that piece of the puzzle, like, parents have to look at, all right, the amount of time and effort that coach is putting into thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, how many kids are on the team? Like, what position does my kid play? Does he play another position? Because I know on the baseball field that helps if you have a kid that can play multiple positions, because then you can just plug and drop them here at third or in right field, or that helps.
Sure.
So playing multiple positions, from a parent perspective, like me looking at my child, I want her to be able to play multiple sports and do multiple things in those sports.
Yep.
So yes, that's going to take effort by me as a parent to like try to get them out there, but try to make them as marketable per se in that sport as you can.
Yeah. I mean, it opens up the opportunities, right? So, and I tell my guys, like, we'll learn an offensive set, right? And then if I call it in practice and they're like, well, I only know this spot, well, then I got to take you out.
Yeah.
If you don't know the rest of the spots, you're cutting down your opportunities there. And so that's kind of the process that we're going through right now in basketball. So let's close with this. So what do coaches really wish that parents understood about all these difficult decisions that are going on? It's not taken lightly. we put too much time in to just randomly throw guys out there in the game. I mean, maybe at the younger levels you can do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's more about development and growth and things like that. But at varsity, high school, and obviously college and beyond, coaches are trying to make the best decision for the team as far as the success of that team. So it's not taken lightly. We put a lot of thought into that, and we probably know some other information that they don't.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've had kids before where, maybe they act out on the court and they get a technical foul, which is kind of a no-no for us. We're going to make sure that we represent, but maybe they're having a tough home situation going on. Maybe they have something that they're really struggling with, and we know that, and we can't talk about that, and we can't let everybody, and it's no one else's business, but they may be seen differently when you're sitting in the stands.
Right.
We've talked about this a couple times, but we're trying to do what's best for the team. We talked about how much a coach likes the kid is rarely taken into consideration. Again, I've had knuckleheads that just drove me crazy, but it was best for the team that they play. They gave us the best chance to be able to be successful in all these different games. And I'm trying to help them with maybe their maturity or their, the way that they lead a team or something like that. And ultimately, sometimes we get it wrong.
Yeah.
I have gotten to the end of seasons. It may be December, and I'm like, you know what? There's these two paths I can take. And I feel right now on December, 2nd, I feel best about this path.
Yeah.
Right. And on January 2nd, I may be like, man, that was the wrong one. I need to change course. Or it may take me through the end of the year. And I'm like, man, I didn't get that right. And that's part of coaching, right? I mean, players are making mistakes out there. Officials make mistakes. Coaches definitely make mistakes. As a parent, I make mistakes with my kids. And so sometimes we get it wrong, and I think you have to have the humility to say that as a coach and to own up to that. And I think one of the best things we can do as a coach is at the end of the game talk about the mistakes that we made.
Right.
The different decisions made. Maybe not personnel decisions. Maybe not, man, I shouldn't have played you. Probably not a good thing, but
You're
man,
the reason why.
I switched to this defense, and man, we shouldn't, or I called this timeout, and I shouldn't, because that kids want to see us being authentic and being
relatable.
Having some humility and things like that. So I think those are the things that coaches would hope that parents understand. So what else you got? Anything else in closing?
Like I said earlier, at the end of the day, we as coaches do care about your players. All right. And like, we just want you to understand that we care about your players. I treat my players like they're part of my immediate family. Like, they get to see me interact with my kids. I tell them all the time, like, hey, come over, do whatever. Like, you want to come over? Yeah, sure. You're going to have my animals, my kids, and then my dogs running around too. Like, they're all going to be going crazy. Yeah. And then you're going to get to see me interact with my wife. So, like, at the end of the day, we care about your players. And what's best for the team may not be what's best for your mental state, right? Like, as a parent. So if it's your kid getting minutes taken away or his minutes getting shortened down, then that's what's best for the team. If it's him not starting a district game, that's what's best for the team. And to understand those things. So
yeah,
pretty much all
absolutely.
I got.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we can do as coaches is we really have to earn the right. And again, it wasn't this way when we were growing up.
No.
You got to earn the right and build trust with these kids, show love for these kids, show that you're interested in their development. I know you still meet with guys who've graduated. Yeah. We still have them back at alumni games. We check in on them at colleges, all these different things. You build up that trust in order to make tough decisions and for them to be handled better. I think the more that we're like, well, I have the authority to do it, I'm just going to do it, the tougher it's making it for us as coaches. Yeah. And I think you have to develop those relationships with parents as well. And there's have to be barriers that are put up in place. But I think a huge part of coaching in today's world is developing that relationship with parents, building trust with your players so that they know, hey, maybe I don't 100% understand it, but I know that Coach RC is trying to make the best decision for our team with the information that he has. So thank you again for joining us. Again, like and subscribe, and we appreciate you and look forward to seeing you in our next episode.